So the talent system is probably one of the most significant existing gameplay mechanics that we're changing with Mists of Pandaria. And I think that one is extremely important because, looking back at it, and knowing really what we were trying to get out of it to start with, which was that we wanted every player to feel like their character of their class was a little bit different or meaningfully different than some other player of the exact same class.
The talent system was the main way you're supposed to customize your character so that your mage feels different from the other mage, standing next to you. And then you can kind of debate, oh, well, do you like this talent point or this talent point? And we were at a part of the game where whether players went PvP or PvE, their talent trees were very, very similar, maybe with a couple of points here and there that were different.
In Cataclysm, we introduced the concept of your first talent point means something. So you would get a very significant gameplay choice of, am I a shadow priest, am I a discipline priest, or am I a holy priest? And it really mattered because you got a lot of abilities that were core. And then we had restrictions in place where you had to spend a lot of points in that tree before you could branch out.
With 51 talent points going all the way deep, we realized that most of them actually weren't that interesting, that there weren't actually real choices, that by adding more and more talents and more points to spend on those talents, we still weren't really creating compelling or interesting gameplay.
There are talents in the talent tree that you have to take. And if you don't take them, it's not a sign of your character's customization. It's a broken character that is not going to be competitive or even able to do their job. If you miss an important button as a tank, you may not be able to survive a boss fight. If you miss an important button as a healer, you're just not going to be able to heal or to reproduce mana.
And after that, it was really kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. And players were really just going to websites to figure out, well, what's the optimal way to play the Fury spec? Or, what's the best way to tank as a prot warrior? And so they'd go through and just fill in their talents exactly the way, some genius on the internet told them to figure it out.
So Cataclysm revamp worked okay. It kind of fixed the problems we wanted to fix a little bit. It wasn't super exciting for players. They just felt like, well, you're taking stuff away and not really giving us anything in return. And yeah, simple is better, but all of us agreed, designers and players alike, that somewhere there is a really cool talent model. We just haven't hit on it yet.
So we started to think about, well, what are the fundamental problems with the talent system that got us to that point? So we really started to realize that you didn't need as many different things in there to make good choices. And in fact, in a lot of ways, having so many things in there made them so unbalanceable that they were inherently not going to be able to be a choice.
When we decided that the 51 points at trees had gotten completely out of hand a couple of years ago, we wanted to do something drastic at the time, but we weren't quite willing to take that huge step, to take that huge risk, and just pull it all out at that point in development. But for Mists, we really pretty much knew we wanted to do it from the start.
And we started to realize that, we really need to allow you to be able to make choices between talents that are apples to apples comparisons. So that you'd be able to look at a talent and say, oh, well, this talent's intended to keep me alive. And I can weigh that against this other talent that's intended to keep me alive in a different way, or this other talent that's able to keep me alive in a different way. At that point, you're able to really kind of evaluate, well, I know what these talents are for, and I can really choose against them in this new talent system.
So we took that and built that out into the entire tree. By forcing 6 rows of 3 talents each, players are forced to make hard choices within each row. And we can be much more confident and comfortable in the balance within that system, within those rows. And there are actually quite a number of permutations for players to differentiate themselves from each other far, far more than you'd ever see today. 2 arms warriors standing next to each other in Mists will be far more different from each other than 2 arms warriors standing next to each other today.
And what's more, because the system is relatively simple with only 6 tiers, we think it'll be a lot easier for players to kind of wrap their head around the total package of talents they can get and to switch them. So we really like the idea that you've been playing your rogue for a long time, you've been raiding or whatever, and your rogue's just going to play the same he always plays. So tonight, you're going to switch around some of your talents, and now your crowd control abilities, maybe your survivability buttons, maybe even some of your core rotational buttons will be a little different, which we hope will kind of keep it fresh for players.
I feel like with the new talent system, you can really dive into your character and experience some of those moments that we had 7 or 8 years ago when we first introduced the talent system, and people would argue day after day about what the spec was, because really at the time it hadn't all been figured out. And that's sort of the magic of what a talent system is supposed to bring. And that's the magic that we really believe the new talent system can bring.